how did the iPhone come about? How did you guys decide that was necessary and possible?
Well, there were giant footsteps behind us called the mobile phone industry. They were watching the success that was iPod, just rampaging through. We were 85% market share at the time, and the market kept growing and growing.
So these phones were all going to become iPods and compete with you in a sense.
Well, right. They were starting to get music functions. They already had cameras on it, and they had some color screens. They were doing photos, right?
Interesting.
And they were adding music to it because they were just copying what the iPod was doing.
Yeah.
But they were doing it like the MP3 players before the iPod, right? They were just, they were making it hard. So we're like, oh my God, if they actually start getting
figure it out, we're in trouble.
And customers only want to carry one thing in their pocket or purse, right? Which are they going to pick?
It's so interesting. So this kind of came from like the creative destruction angle where you were going to get attacked and therefore you had to attack back.
Well, not just attack back, but we had to cannibalize ourselves.
Yeah.
So
you had to attack yourself too.
Yeah, we had to attack ourselves.
Because they were attacking you, you had to attack yourself better. Yeah.
Exactly, and do it better and beat them at the same time and beat the products that we had there. So with the iPods that we had at the time. So really there was 3 different projects going on at the time, which was a iPod plus phone, which looked like a iPod Classic with a wired headset, and that's how you do your phone calls. There was a full screen video iPod with a virtual click wheel.
Yep.
So because we were doing videos in the iTunes Music Store at that time, music and movies and that stuff, and people wanted a full screen. And then there was a project over on the Mac side to create a tablet Mac with multi-touch interface.
So you guys so you guys realized all had to be one.
Yeah, then over time we found out the rotary dial, as the iPod plus phone was a rotary dial phone. It was not good when you wanted to dial a phone number, and we tried very hard to make that work. The video-based iPod was great, but when it was single touch, didn't have anywhere near the power of the multi-touch. So it was like, okay, we got to get that touch technology onto the video iPod with a really great interface. And keyboard, virtual keyboard, because the BlackBerry was at the time, right? The Crackberry, everybody had to have that.
Yeah, that's what I was using then too.
Right, but it was just a messaging machine.
Yeah.
And then and then combine it with incredible apps, right? And that was a different operating system. It was a very, very stripped down and augmented Macintosh OS.
Yep.
Because it was just much too big.
Well, I hear you wanted to buy Android, which is fascinating. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's in the book. I got a couple of calls from Andy Rubin at the time, who I worked with at General Magic, working on Android before Android was bought by Google.
Yeah.
And so that was really like, Steve, we should listen. We should listen to this.
He was a little bit stubborn about certain things.
Yeah, of course. You know, he didn't want to say the idea came from somewhere else, probably. Not that we had, or someone could claim it. But at the end of the day, who knows what would have happened if Android would have been absorbed into Apple, or something happened, or we changed the strategy up on
even
iPhone.
More dominant. In some ways, maybe it's good for the world that there were 2 horses or something.
You always need competition. It always makes you hungry, and makes you always got to have that enemy.
As a consumer, I kind of like the Google bought it, and then the world has these different. But as Apple, you probably should have bought it.
Right? You just never know where these things go. But I'm glad that there's always that foil and that making it better.
It just seems it's amazing how it all came together. Like there happened to be this glass that was developed a long time ago that was good enough, because otherwise it really wouldn't have worked without that glass from 50 years ago, right?
You mean the Gorilla Glass?
Just all these pieces that you had to.
It was kind of like the iPod when the hard drive fell out of the sky, and then boom, boom, boom. Like I was able and run around and like, oh my God, there's a process over here that I could take, and I could bundle it with this and then this, and I was like, oh my God, we could do it.
It was just like barely possible.
It was barely possible, but possible enough to get that V1 experience. And that was the same thing with the iPhone, the first generation. But obviously, it has grown up significantly since then. The joke was on the iPhone. It was the greatest computer, the iPhone was the greatest thing except for a phone. Right, because the phone really sucked, because we were learning, right,
of course,
by figuring out what to do with how to make good cameras, even. So there was a lot of lessons learned, but now it's the best product, or the top 3 products in the world for this kind of device.